Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. We are so grateful to have you stop by. This channel, The Academic Enthusiast, as the name suggests, is everything academia. We talk about topics that are relevant for undergrads, especially those in their final year, the master students, the aspiring Ph.D. students, and also junior Ph.D. students would benefit greatly from these topics as well. What we want to talk about today is how to write a good research proposal. Anybody can write a research proposal, but how do you make your research proposal stand out? How do you make your research proposal so salient in your supervisor's mind, or so salient because research proposals are really for those seeking admission? How do you make your proposal stand out from the bunch? How do you make it salient in the decision makers' minds? If you're interested in this, stick around until the end of this video. Be sure to subscribe and press the notification bell so that you don't miss any more videos from this channel. Welcome back. So before I talk about the nitty-gritty details of research proposal writing, I want to talk about a kind of proposal that we should all be familiar with. Even if you have not personally proposed to anybody or you've not been proposed to, we should all be familiar with what goes into a proposal. When a man is going to propose to a woman, of course in some cultures it is the woman who proposes to the man, but I will focus on the man. This is what I know in my culture. It is the man proposing to the woman. So when a man is going to propose to a woman, he has to plan. He has to think about how he's going to do it. It has to be beautifully packaged. Why must it be beautifully packaged? Because when you propose something, you're putting forward a plan or suggestion for consideration by others. So consideration by others means what? Your aim is to convince them. You want them to consider your viewpoint. You want them to consider you in the case of marriage. So it has to be beautifully packaged. Right? The same thing applies for research proposal writing. Why do we need to know how to write a research proposal? The research proposal is really the bedrock of your research or your grant or your scholarship. It is the very first thing that your audience will see. So it's more or less like the first impression. It's really the first impression that you're going to make. Think about when you want to apply for a scholarship. They have not seen any of your papers. The first thing they will read from you is your research proposal. It has to be packaged beautifully, just like a marriage proposal. But of course, it's a different kind of proposal. However, it is the bedrock of your research, of your academic career. It has to be packaged well. So knowing that a research proposal has to be packaged well, what are some of the characteristics of a good research proposal? The first one is a good research proposal should be concise. What does concise mean? It should not be unnecessarily long-winded, too long, lengthy. You should just go for precision, straight to the point. There is a book I love to read whenever I'm going to write a paper. It's by Stephen Wilbers. I'll put it on the description box. The title of the book is Keys to Great Writing, Mastering the Elements of Composition and Revision. And in that book, I took one line. And the line is, if I could teach only one thing to writing, it would be this: make every word count. So in the book, Wilbers talk about economy. So economy, it means be economical with the words. You don't have to use long sentences. Make sure that your sentences are short and precise. It helps with readability so that it's not a pain for the audience to read through your research proposal. So in the book, Wilbers mentioned a few things that we should avoid in writing. If you want a copy of our slides, we are more than happy to share the slides. You will just have to contact us, but of course you have to subscribe to our channel. So there are some of the expressions that he actually helps us with. He says that to replace wordy expressions with single words. For example, things like prior to could be succinctly presented as before, right? Subsequent to, simply after. In this day and age, change it to now or today. In order to can be simply presented as to. So as to can also be presented as to. Or another example would be on the grounds that, for the reason that, in as much as, insofar as, due to the fact that, based on the fact that, in view of the fact that, owing to the fact that. All these are too wordy. You can just succinctly present it as because. Remember, one thing that my key takeaway rather from the Wilbur's book is any word that you put down should add value to your proposal. All these words, they just add, a lot of length, which is unnecessary and is cognitively taxing for the reader, because they would have to exert a lot of cognitive processing to understand what you have written. But if you just sum it up to, replacing these wordy expressions with single words. For example, last but not least, just put finally. In my opinion, to be honest, to tell the truth, in all candor, needless to say, obviously, of course, all these are not necessary. They don't add any value to your proposal. So remove all of this. And the key thing is to be concise. So that's the key thing. The first characteristic of a good research proposal is that it is concise. So the other characteristic of a good research proposal is what? Remember what I said before. When you propose, you're putting forward a plan or a suggestion for consideration by others, right? So the key words there would be consideration by others, meaning that you're seeking to convince other people. So a good research proposal should be convincing. How do you make sure that your research proposal is convincing? One of the methods that I learned, but I learned this method late in my Ph.D. program. I wish somebody had told me this in the beginning. The Simon Sinek method, where he said, in whatever it is you do, even when you're trying to start a business, you want to start with why. Why is your value? You're telling people this is the value of my research. How do you show value? You show value, for example, if let's say you want to study how to inculcate physical activity behaviors to reduce sedentariness among working adults. That could be your project objective. Why? Why do you need to do this? Because the rates of diabetes are skyrocketing. And then the best way to actually show value, people remember, they may not remember the actual number, but if you put a number to something, you make it sound important. And this is actually true even in politics. If you listen to the politicians, they'll tell you, 80% of people that I talk to, some of it of course is a lie. When did they sit down and start computing these percentages? And Trump is very good at that. But anyway, that's besides the point. I just with that. But the key thing is to start with why. How do you get your whys? You look at the literature. You look at another why could be, why is just the reason, right? A reason for pursuing a research project could be that, this term I feel like is not well understood. And then of course you use literature to support the conclusion you've made that something is not well understood, or it's a new concept that is not well studied. And we will talk about how to select a topic also, but basically the why could be that is a new topic that is not well understood, or let's say in social science research there's a construct that is not well understood that we need to understand because this construct is useful in this way. Basically, what is the reason? What is the purpose? What value can we accrue from this project that you want to pursue? Who will accrue this value? Is it for the researchers? You want to maybe help researchers to study a particular topic better? Is it for practice, for managers? Maybe there's something that they don't understand in practice. So who's going to benefit from your research, and how are they going to benefit from your research? Another thing you can focus on is there's short-term value and then there's long-term value. It will really benefit if your research project has both, or if it has long-term value, because you want to make sure that any problem that is important. In some fields of research, these problems are called wicked problems. These are problems that are difficult to solve, and they require expertise from different fields, interdisciplinary expertise. So for wicked problems, there will usually be a short-term value, short-term benefits and long-term benefits. So in your why, make sure that you really flash out, or you unpack what value is going to be accrued in the short term and in the long term. So let's move forward to the next point. Characteristic of a good research proposal. So far we talked about being concise, going straight to the point, and talking about the reasons, convincing the reader. The third point is being systematic, coherence. So to be coherent, it means that there has to be a logical sequence in your arguments. It also involves the rhetorical style used in your writing. Your arguments have to be presented in an intelligible way. When you talk, for example, about, let me draw again from the example of conducting a study to reduce sedentariness. You have all these whys and the short term and long term. You need to put it together. There has to be unity among your arguments. Put it together in a systematic and coherent way. And you need to also understand who is my audience, and this is key. It's very important. Remember, a research proposal can either be for your class, which is for your teacher, for your lecturer. It could be for your research grant, for the grantors. It could be for your professor. It could be for your academic colleagues. Let's say you want to write a short paper for a conference. All these people will have different expectations. The language that is used differs across these audience. For example, when I write a paper I'm in social science research, information systems to be more precise. So there is a way that we write. We use theoretical explanations, but when I'm writing a proposal for a grant, I'm not going to include a lot of theoretical, arguments, underlying mechanisms. It's not necessary for the grantors. They are not interested in that. They are usually interested in how is this project going to create value for people. So know who you're writing for, and then present your arguments in an intelligible way as it would be perceived by your audience. Another thing that I want to mention about systematic and coherence in writing is your paragraph structure. This is something that my supervisor taught me in first year of my PhD program. Each paragraph needs to have a topic sentence, and after your topic sentence, you have supporting sentences, right? Supporting sentences could be examples, could be citations to support your topic sentence. Another thing is, as you write this way, make sure that your writing flows easily and is not something that the reader has to fight through to understand, because again, your research proposal is the first thing that they're going to see from you. If it's a pain to read and you have to struggle to read, even when you cite, make sure that your proposal is self-contained. Don't make your reader have to go to the paper you've cited to understand what you're trying to say, because when they find they have to do that a lot, they'll just toss your paper aside. If you're looking for a scholarship, they'll admit the next student. If you're looking for a grant, they'll just give the grant to the next best research proposal. So make it easy for your readers. Make your proposal self-contained. Don't make the reader fight through to understand what you're trying to say. Another thing that I struggled with when I was first studying my PhD program is the use of tables and figures. At this stage of the game, this is not like first year of your undergrad. Your tables and figures have to be appropriately used. You don't use any figure or table that you're not going to talk about in your narrative. It just is not necessary. That's the first thing. So only include tables that you've talked about, you've mentioned somewhere. Another thing is your tables and figures should add value. Remember, anything extra you put, it goes back to that point of being concise. because if you include long tables, long figures, complicated, there are too many elements in your figures and there's too many interactions, again you are forcing the reader to exert cognitive effort in understanding. That is also assuming that they are even interested or they care enough to exert the necessary effort to understand what you've presented. So the best thing is make sure your figures are very simple to understand. And really the purpose of figures and tables is to present the information in an easily understandable way so that at a glance I can see what you're talking about without having to read the whole paper. That is if I don't have time to. So make it easy for your readers when you write and also when you use your tables and figures. So we move on to the other point of this is also very important, especially for PhD students, feasibility. Your project has to be doable. I'm not saying that it should be easy. Avoid, when you come up with a research proposal or a research topic, don't pick low-hanging fruits. What do I mean by low-hanging fruits? Don't do something that anybody can do. That's the first thing. It has to be challenging but doable. Feasibility is not synonymous with simple. Feasibility does not mean easy. It should be challenging but doable within the specified time period and also with limited resources. So it has to be feasible, especially if you're proposing this. I found in my experience, when you're writing a research grant and the grant is your grantors are from industry, they are not within academia, they are very particular about feasibility. And why are they particular about feasibility? Because their outcomes of interest are different. One of the projects we were looking at is how to help a nursing home. We were developing a system, IoT system, to monitor elderly people in a nursing home. We were applying for a research grant. We were interested in, academic related outcomes like the rate of falls or things like that. Of course, those are also industry related. But the grantors, we were surprised that their key outcome was productivity, meaning the healthcare personnel, the caregivers' productivity. That's what they were interested in. And we had prepared all these things like, we're going to reduce length of stay, we are going to reduce and they said, what about productivity? How are you going to reduce it? How long would we expect to see an increase in productivity? Is this feasible within this time period? So know your audience and know what they care about, because value, I already talked about, there will be different types of audience, academia, industry audience. So if you know your audience, because value would differ across all these audience, their value would not be the same. So we've talked about the characteristics of a good research proposal. It has to be concise, it has to be systematic, it has to be feasible, it has to be convincing. So let us end this one here. In the next video, I will talk about how do you find a good research topic. This can be a task if you're new to research. It's like looking for treasure, honestly. So I will cover the elements one by one. This is very important. You don't want to miss it, especially if you have a research project due soon or a research proposal due soon. You never get a second chance to making a great first impression. Remember that the proposal as a whole is a first impression, but even more importantly, your research topic. So let's end here, and I hope that you will join us next time. I hope you have learned something from this video. Let me know what you think of the content, where you don't understand. Do let us know on the comment section below. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day ahead. Before I actually end the video, let me remind you again to subscribe to our channel and do press the notification bell so that you don't miss any more videos from our channel. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good day. Bye.